Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Valoranting. I'm WTFmoses, and I'm happy to be joined once again by Pansy and the man that should be in the intro by now, Velly. How you guys doing, Velly? I mean, we got to get you in the film here. We got to get you on the game tape. One day. Pansy, how you feeling? Feeling all right?
Yeah, I'm good.
That's all you get.
Cool. All right, there it is. I'm good. I'll leave it
That's it. One word answers only. That's it. Velly, what do you got for me? What's going on with you this week, buddy?
I'm doing great, man. Other than that, yeah, they need to put me in the damn intro, or else I'm just gonna have to just raise my day rate. You know, we're gonna have to make them do it by force.
Premium guests only. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's been I'm gonna say an interesting week, but I'm not gonna lie to you, it's been a slow news week out here in Valorant. But we have some interesting stuff right out of the gate, and it's always good to start out with some fresh patch notes. Let's talk a little bit about the well, first of all, let's talk about the Ask Valorant update that came out. There's some interesting stuff in here. This is again the series in which this came out a couple days ago, 5 days ago, where you can kind of send in some common questions in Valorant. We'll answer them. There's some stuff about aim punch. There's stuff about deathmatch, and it says here, this is the key one. If we could pause on that, it says deathmatch is absolutely about to come to Valorant. Okay, I had to race. Deathmatch is absolutely a mode that is coming to Valorant in the future. We don't have a timetable yet, but it's something we're actively working on the underlying technology as well as designing, iterating, prototyping in place. It's okay. I didn't read that before. It's deathmatch. Just put us in the map, Jared. No, so I'm happy to see that though. I'm glad they're confirming it. Thoughts on deathmatch? The only thing that we really cared about.
I care about aim punch. That stands out to me too. I mean, I've hated aim punch for years. I think it's a baby's mechanic to help out babies in games, and I've never had anyone argue for it to be a good thing that's not just as a shit comeback mechanic.
Right.
There are ways to implement it that could be interesting. I don't think they've got it right yet. I think I like the fact, so just really quickly, just to touch on it, because I'm just going to run down it. I don't think aim punch should be different on guns, which I think is what they were addressing on that like comment. They're like, are you going to change that? No, I don't think it needs to be. You want consistency, less RNG, less changes and random stuff, the better, right? But do I think the aim punch then should be related to the amount of armor you have or where you are shot? Yes. And again, I don't know the ins and outs enough in Valorant yet to really kind of break it down. So I listened to, I think it was Sean Gares having a discussion with DDK about it, and they're in a similar camp to me of not liking having aim punch there, and it should be reduced if anything. So yeah, for me, I hope to see it reduced. I'm glad that they said they don't want a different per gun. But yeah, beyond the deathmatch, that's the only thing that really stood out to me in the Q&A is that, people are actually talking about it though, which is a good thing. I mean, God, the amount of times I've had to be the person going to developers and being like, hey, that aim punch, get it the fuck out. Get it the fuck out. It shows we've got some really good competitive minds in the game already, kind of bringing these up. So that's a good thing. It's a good sign.
I mean, yeah. Thoughts on aim punch there, Velly?
I mean, it's kind of like, so my native game, Rainbow Six, we have the screen fucking shakes whenever a grenade or a wall gets open, right, in Rainbow Six. I mean, that feature, I feel like features like aim punch and just those random factors should be a thing, especially in a highly competitive game. Give it a sound cue, give it something else rather than shaking your screen that you have no control over, right? Other than that, deathmatch, great. Right now, Valorant doesn't feel like a complete game yet, and you want to get as many people to play as possible and have as much fun as possible. You need new, because there's a lot of not new in the game right now. Bring in deathmatch. Let the casuals have their fun. Let it be something that's different than the regular long unranked games that we have. Because not a lot of people like Spike Rush, So I really like that addition as well. Keep adding new. Hopefully the next thing they add to the game are just more maps.
Yeah, we'll touch on that a little bit later. I kind of think that deathmatch is more of a tool than anything else. It's the thing that you want to spend your time. Like if you don't really want to play Valorant, but you want to just kind of keep the grinder going a little bit, having deathmatch allows you to just go and chill, practice in a way that is going to be valuable to you later, regardless of how long you do it. It's just like going and shooting like free throws or something like that. You're going to use this skill eventually. So I mean, it's as far as the aim punch stuff goes, I understand why it's a mechanic in the game. I agree with you, Lauren. I don't think it's it's necessary for a competitive style game to have aim punch in there. But I think back to like CS 1.6, like that level of aim punch. Like if you get a shot in the head with armor and your head dinks a little bit, then that is like that to me is kind of where I would say that's acceptable because you know a skill shot has been landed on you and if you're just spamming with a rifle or whatever, I don't think that you should have the full advantage for someone who's actually hitting those headshots on you. That's my opinion on that. But let's talk a little bit about the patch notes that came out in combination with this. This just came out this morning. Very small little update. The biggest one for me is the Guardian changes. So this is their premier change in this patch. So we can take a look at what's been changing with the Guardian. The price has been reduced. The rate of fire has been increased, essentially. So it is a little weird to read that, but it's a faster time between shots. So the rate of fire has been increased. The penetration has gone from medium to heavy. And we were talking about this in the pre-show. We're not 100% sure what input queue is. But it has been changed. So I'm not 100%. We'll put a pin in that one, and I'll let the smarter people explain to me, or explain to us rather, what input queue is. But the Guardian, I mean, this is a weapon that is living in the tier of Vandal and the Phantom, but nobody picks it. So that's interesting to see. We have Haven, some spots removed for where you could lose the spike. Some map changes in general, spike rush changes. But for the most part, this stuff is kind of centered around the Guardian and the surrender changes. So the unrated mode, can we stop on that a little bit? Go back so I can read it for the people. Unrated mode, vote requirements to pass change from 100% to 80%, so you don't need a full unanimous to surrender an unrated. But competitive remains at 100%. And you can now call a surrender vote starting with 5 rounds instead of 8. So you can surrender earlier, but you still need that unanimous decision. Pansy, thoughts on the surrender mode and Guardian changes?
Okay, I'm going to start with the Guardian changes. I think there's also something in there about X-ray being added, and I hope we can talk about that. If the producers in the back can have a little look through, have a little look at that one, because I think that's something we can talk about in just a second, especially as commentators. But starting on the Guardian, I like seeing guns being viable. I think they should all fill a somewhat specific role. I think there should be like a use that they have in mind for it. I worry that if they overtune it, it's gonna turn into a way overly powered gun, because we've seen the power of the operator, for example. Something that's pretty strong, and the way it's played would be, I feel similar to how you'd play a Guardian, let's say on defense. You might try and incorporate that, and then you couple it with the utility of abilities that these agents have, and it could become incredibly powerful, and it's more spammable now because of the rate of fire being upped a little bit. So I'm a little bit cautious on it, because I actually really like the Guardian, not necessarily as it was. I think it kind of got overdone. I think people kind of realized how to work around it, but when you saw a good aimer pick it up, you'd get to have a really enjoyable experience and watch them play if you were catching a streamer. It definitely did need to be tuned, but I think they've got to be really cautious with this one, because it could turn into, well, I can't afford an AWP, or, the Marshall list isn't going to do it, so I'll just go on this. And again, you couple it with something, or an agent that's got, great movement, like a Jet, or, whomever else that you like to play in that regard, you could have something very, very powerful. So I'm sure they'll test it out and keep an eye on it and see how it's incorporated. But then also, I know that I feel like you get two different camps of players. You get the ones who'll find like the tiniest nuance in a gun and then be like, right, I know this is OP, I'm gonna run it. Or they ignore it and say, I know nothing than the Vandal and Phantom. I mean, I think of Counter-Strike players, no one considered half of their very OP guns for a long, long time. So I think it'll be interesting to see who picks it up and who does something impressive with it. I think that's it. And I hope the Riot keep a really close eye on it, because I don't want it to become a very poor man's close range operator, which it could potentially be.
I don't know if the thing is, like, the penetration chance is interesting, but it doesn't really say too much about damage, right? So I don't think the damage value is going to change. It is still quite a powerful weapon.
It didn't have a damage drop off, right? Like, originally it never had damage drop off, which all the other guns had apart from operators. So it's like, technically, if someone sits there on like a 10 FOV, they can just use it like a sniper. If it's got like a higher rate of fire, they can spam it like I'm just like, I'm just a little worried that someone's gonna sit there and look at those numbers.
You're very concerned about the Guardian meta that has yet to develop.
I'm always worried about this shit. I don't like change. Have you noticed?
You know what,
Well,
Moses? I'll say this.
Go on, Velly.
The Guardian has been my favorite gun since the beta. It's been my favorite. I personally believe that
speaks
it's
a lot
been
to your character.
no, I'm serious. Like I really believe it's been like the best gun since the beta. And I always pick the Guardian when I want to try hard, right? I think the Guardian is extremely unfair in the hands of someone who's capable. If you have good aim or whatnot, the Guardian is the best gun you could have. I win my 1v1s with the Guardian up close.
What are you saying?
Against the Phantom, against Vandals. What you saying? The Guardian's a great gun. Trust me. If you're not a trash can, you get some motherfucking quality kills with it, right? Now, I felt like as a single shot rifle where the clip isn't big, right? It needed that high penetration. That was something that needed to be done. The only thing that scares me is the rate of fire. If the rate of fire is faster, that gun is going to be ridiculous. I don't know if you all follow Call of Duty at all. It's going to remind me of the FAL from Black Ops, and it's not going to be fair. For someone that's able to click, click, click as fast as possible, they're going to outduel anyone. And not to mention, this makes Reyna even more scary with her ult. Now, when I first used Reyna, I had a Guardian, I used my ult, and we all know your rate of fire just rapidly increases, right? And you also think about Brimstone as well. And when you have that type of gun with those type of power-ups, you will not lose a gunfight unless you're a fucking trash can. That's what scares me. Yes, that's what scares me.
So my experience with the Guardian is a little bit different than yours, Velly, because my the spread on the Guardian is ridiculous. Like if you spam that thing at all, it's just like it's all over the place. Hit my okay. Well, I gotta hit the first shot because the second one's going to the moon. So it's like
it's pretty aim punch. Someone probably shot you, and then you got aim punch. So
I think that the Guardian will definitely have an increase, but my imagination for where it will be is as contesting on like long angles as a budget gun. I think we'll see it more in eco. I think we'll see it a little bit more in specialist hands. I don't see the current landscape of CS players just switching to the Guardian. Like every team that we see now that is dominant, or at least for the current time being better than the rest, are comprised of CS players who, if you handed them a Guardian, would not know what to, well, not maybe not know what to do with it, but it wouldn't be their first choice, I don't think. So I think that the Guardian is going to be one of those things that is maybe have to be adopted over time, and I imagine we're going to see that in the European scene first because they're a little bit more relaxed and testing some stuff out. Maybe like a guy like Sinatra will pick it up or something like that.
Exactly, it's gonna take one player to do it. I think that's the thing. It's the same in like every game. It takes one person to do it well enough, and everyone go, "Wait, that's actually kind of viable." It's the same as a lot of these kind of, you know, even with agents. I mean, as soon as Hiko started playing breaching, you know, at high tier levels, everyone was like, "Oh, who'd have thought it? The character that can, the agent that can flash is viable." It's gonna be one of those things that once, as I said, once people see it working once, they'll grind it, and I think that it could be. Again, you got to think about where it fits in the economy. It could make those kind of lesser buys a lot easier to run with because, as I said, it's how much is that? It's like 2,700 if they reduce the cost. 2,500. So just over a Bulldog. How much is it compared to the SMGs? They're 1,000, 1,600. So it's like okay, you can't afford the full buy, but maybe you get like a little bit of armor and the Guardian. You've got a pretty decent purchase, if I'm honest. I think that I like to have my eco rounds being eco rounds, right? I like to see teams having to, you know, say, okay, we can't win this. We messed up our economy. There, round back. Okay, we'll come back in the next one. That's fine. I think this adds a little element of danger to that. And again, I think I come at this with the mentality of not having developers keeping close eyes on the changes that they've made and then not reacting fast if it's overtuned or, you know, underpowered. I think so far I can... Yeah, exactly. CZ, Krieg. I mean, we can go through this for a long time. But as I said, it's like, I think I should give Riot the credit and the benefit of the doubt because so far the communication has been spot on. So I can't be too worried until I see someone just going ham with it. And someone probably will, right? Someone's going to find it. So we'll see. We'll see if it's actually good or not.
I feel like it could be advantageous, especially in long fights. Like, I'm gonna be completely honest. Like, yeah, the Phantom is really good, and you know, the first 3 shots are spot on head level. But after that, I mean, I would 100% trust a Guardian. You take a look at Haven, for example. That C long hold is gonna be even better now. You even go to Heaven on A site, and on A site, I love doing a peek into the cubby from A long to see if anybody's pushing that. that is the easiest kill you could possibly get with the pre-buffed Guardian. Now imagine a better rate of fire. That it's only going to be better. And plus, the only thing that was really missing was still the high wall impact. I can't even think of what the word is right now, but that penetration damage with penetration damage being on high now, I'm telling you, man, the Guardian is going to be key for these long holds. Like, I would rather use a Guardian than the Scout. I'd rather use a Guardian as I try to build up my saves in order to get an op. That's going to be fucking deadly.
I think Guardian over Scout makes a lot of sense. I think Guardian over Scout.
Like, you're not going to beat me in a long range battle with a fucking Vandal.
If you're going to be hitting a potential, like unless you're hitting headshots, I think the Guardians would be a one-shot headshot regardless, right? So it's so I mean, yeah, the choice over the
195.
I'm pretty sure that the Scout is going to be, or the not Scout, whatever it's called, the not Scout is going to is going to have some is the Marshal, right, is going to have some maybe reduced market share, but I kind of picture it, and I'll leave a pin in this because I think we're beating this topic to death. I kind of picture it as like the round 11. We don't have quite enough. We need to win this next round, and a guy like pick one, Drone has to go to a Guardian. I think there's going to be more. There's going to be more excitement there, like a late round bad or not, like a late round upgraded Sheriff or something like that. Go on, Velly.
Time out. So okay. We had a discussion before the stream started. We said, okay, is it reduced or increased? Oh, my man CJ and Zix in the chat are saying it's reduced. If it's reduced, I feel like that is the right direction for the Guardian. Because like I said, even in mid-range battles, I can click fast enough to win that gunfight against a Phantom or
4.7. That's
actually
going to be.
Am I misunderstanding? Am I brain dead? Because I kind of think of like the 4.75 value as the time between shots. Am I completely missing that? Like that's where I'm thinking is like the rate of fire was reduced from 6.5 to 4.5.
Bach is saying it's faster. I don't know who to believe. Well,
no, it is. So it's like the gunfire is faster.
Yeah.
Is what we're saying.
I was gonna, like, it wouldn't be a buff if they just made it slower.
It says the rate of fire is reduced.
Yeah, it's Riot community. You're confusing.
The time is
reducing a dinosaur.
No. It's English. If it's reduced, that means it's less than. So the rate of fire is less than now. So I'm guessing that out of a second, rather than 6.5 shots, it's 4.75, which means it's about a shot slower ultimately. I think that's great then. Because, like I said, you can spam the fuck out of the Guardian, and this is the right way to go. So, chat,
the patch live. Can someone log in and see what happens? Okay, well, since we're unclear as to exactly what is changing,
second, right?
I kind of think it's increased. I think it's increased. It doesn't make any sense for me for it to be faster or for it to be slower than it was, right? But
rounds per second.
It does need to be faster.
Yeah. Okay, rounds per second is 4. Okay, whatever. F it. All right, we're moving on. That's it. Enough of the Guardian
the time between shots. That's interesting.
Yeah, that's what I thought. But that's been increased as well. That makes sense. So are they just trying to make it a
heavier gun?
Trying to make it like a yeah. Okay, I get it. All right. Well, that definitely changes a lot of. Sorry, what was that, Daniel? Okay, let's look at the observer changes since we're not qualified to be talking about weapon changes.
No,
this is interesting.
So the reason. So the reason I want to talk about observing here is because this is going to be interesting for how the game develops, because I think CSGO took years to get it even close to right, and I think we fucked it up for a long time. Adding agent silhouettes for observers. This is becoming a huge thing of basically minimizing some of the audience's understanding of how impressive some things are. Because Counter-Strike, it took us getting, Sapphire, Prius, Rush, Sliggy, so like even Steel back in the day. Some of the greatest observers knew how to use silhouettes correctly to relay a little bit of information, give the viewers at home a little bit of an idea, but not too much. You don't I don't want to watch, a movie when it's got a bar at the top telling me the ending, right? You want to enjoy the experience because that's the game you play. You're not meant to make it a different game. So CSGO fucked it up. And now, as I said, every Gold Nova 4 can't watch a game of CS without having to see everything and then thinking they can do exactly the same as Get Right or, Simple because, well, of course he knew he was there. No, of course he didn't. He's just smart. He used good communication and map knowledge, you fucking idiots.
You see the silhouette.
Like, but also, let me just say this. Like, I was over at my aunt's house. I was doing an event in Dubai, right? I was out there, and I wasn't casting the finals. It was Counter-Strike, and I went around to their house because they lived out there, and it was like the one time I got to see them in like ages. And they, it was on the main TV because it was a big thing in Dubai. It was a big like publicity thing. And trying to explain to her why there is a glowing silhouette of a person on the screen is impossible. It's like I got everything else. Everything else was made sense. Why can we see through walls? Can they see them through walls? No, they can't. Oh, so when can they see them? When they're on the screen. I think X-ray is a real crutch that a lot of people fall into. And I fucking hope we get good observers who know how to use this, because as soon as you don't, the game is gonna look so fucking boring. I kid you not, and it's just gonna ruin so much of storytelling. So it's a constant problem in my eyes that we've had in other games, and I think CS:GO, you can't fix it now. You can lean away from it, but it's too ingrained.
I will say this.
Just so go ahead, Velly. Yep.
I'm sorry. In my last esport, we actually had an option to turn off the silhouette, the X-rays, and even as a caster, it was phenomenally better because I didn't know what the hell to expect that the other team was doing. So everything was a surprise, and that showed within my enthusiasm and my passion, and also my shout casting. Like Pansy said, how many boomers or new people to esports do you have to explain? No, they can't see that person, just us.
Yeah.
And it's just, it does, even though we say that, and to us it's common knowledge, it's easy to understand, they still sit there like, that's still weird though. Get that shit out of here. Have an option to turn it off.
I said, like, early round,
I think about
fine.
PUBG a lot.
I said it's, oh god, PUBG. I mean, I'm not even
certain
PUBG
games,
just
it's
doesn't
fine.
even come into mind. Some games, I think the thing is with like a 5v5 search and destroy, early game, sure, why not? Toggle it to show right information. Use it to paint a picture. Don't just use it for the sake of using it. It's laziness. Use it correctly, but this then comes down to all the TOs to invest not only in broadcast talent, but also who's observing it. Because the amount of TOs I know who'll go, oh, well, we got all the best commentators. We got this crazy cool shit coming up, but then we have no budget left. Hey, here's old Simon in the back. Yo, you ever play Counter-Strike? Cool, observe it. Right. Cool, nice. Okay, bring it, and that's what
Simon.
people see. Yeah, poor old Simon, man. But yeah, no, I hope people don't just see it like Counter-Strike and they ignore Twitch being stupid for the first couple of months of getting used to it, because it's worth it in the end. It really is. The benefit is massive.
Lauren, I actually heard, I don't watch too much CS, right? And I heard that at LAN is actually a trick where they would point their reticle in an area and wait for the crowd's reaction because of the X-ray.
Oh, greasy.
Yeah, people are smart. People are smart. Dude,
yeah.
There's been so many cheesy things. Dude, I mean, yeah, a lot of people baited it. I think North Americans worked it out the first, if I'm honest. I think like a lot of the NA teams worked out, I'll just literally scan this wall. When the crowd starts kicking off, I know where he is. And maybe you don't shoot it, but you molly it. You clear the corner, right? Like these things. I mean, God, like Jordan, nothing back, so many years ago at LAN would randomly flash areas just to see when their faces went white. Because funny enough, when you're fully flashed and that happens in front of you, you can see who's been flashed, right? So obvious, again, that's why we now have to have like the desks not facing each other, because you can tell when a player's fully white. I mean, people will find ways and means. Yeah, it's
that's
ways
something
and means.
that's something that seems so obvious. It's like when you it's like the FedEx arrow. Like once you see it, you're like, oh my god, how did I not see this? Are you familiar with the FedEx arrow?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, okay, you're about to ruin your life. You're about to ruin your life.
Oh my god, that's a thing.
And now you will never unsee it. All right, we have one more thing. We have one more thing we got to get through, which is cheaters. Cheaters have been banned. A lot of them have been banned, and this is coming from Riot again. This is something we've been kind of following along. There's been, I mean, since the quarantine has been ongoing, I think that the whole aspect of gaming and cheaters has become more and more prevalent because more people are playing games, and the more you play on PC, especially on a game like Valorant, you realize just how many goddamn cheaters there are out there. So they're banning like thousands of people at a time permanently now, and I'm not sure if we have any of the sad people in forums complaining about it. But there's also reports going out now about if you have a cheater that was reported by you and is then later banned, and then it'll give you a little we got you, man. So feels good.
It feels good.
I don't know. I don't know if we have any
Yeah.
tiers this week, but it's nice to see cheaters being banned as they should be. Let's move on to some tournament stuff. We have Giant Slayer putting on tournaments. Giant Slayer TV, excuse me, putting on tournaments. Fight Night and Spike Rush. So this is just a little small tourney that was going on for I guess these are more like grassroots community stuff. We've got some college going on. This is the Giant Slayer tournament here. Nice to see. Nice to see this stuff. Shout out to Jamerson out there grinding. But this is one of those things that is always a good sign in an esport if you have collegiate level or amateur level competition getting rewarded or at least getting some play. So in this case, I think college tournaments will start to play up a little bit in the same way that I think we saw CS and like Rocket League and that kind of thing come through the college scene and have some success. Heroes of the Storm comes to mind as well. Just nice to see. I mean, this is a kind of a sign of health. If people are interested enough to play in a $200 cup, it's just a good thing to see. So any thoughts on that, Velly, on the grassroots scene?
Always good, always needed. We've spoken about this like basically every episode, right? And I really like the fact that we're getting college teams into it as well. This is big. This is something that I've even considered going into. And it gives a lot of people still a reason to play the game competitively, which I think now is a more important time than ever because of the fact that the game does feel incomplete. There's not a solid competitive scene yet. So why not continue these tournaments to continue to grow the game? I mean, nothing's negative is going to come from it, right? That's essentially it. Just make sure it's advertised right and keep it pushing because this is what's going to build your pillars for the future whenever you want that esports scene to really stand out. You want that audience to be there and waiting.
The college stuff, Lauren, to me is like one of those things where, and it's been a long time since I've been in college, but I do remember like how I got into playing just pickup basketball as I was around, shooting around in a gym, and then there's guys next to me playing a competitive game, and I was like, well, shit, I can play in that. And next thing you know, I'm playing in leagues and doing all this other stuff. And the same thing happens in esports, where maybe you're playing a game and you see your college, tweet something out, or you see something in the quad, as they say, and you get into esports, and this kind of stuff will eventually breed it. And shout out to Nerd Street Gamers. These guys have been putting on not only huge tournaments like we saw at the T1 Invitational, but also weekly tournaments. So, and these are decent prize pools, man. These are like, I think one of them was $2,500. This one's $1,000. This could be like, if you're a good player that is, maybe not going to be seeing like the TSMs of the world every week, you could potentially make a little bit of cash here. So make sure you're getting out there supporting that kind of stuff. And Lauren, I mean, how important has this stuff been for games like CS in the past?
I mean, it truly is the foundations, right? And it even from, so let's take it away from just the player's perspective. As a commentator, let's say you're not ready for tier 1. Let's say you're just interested. You mess around with your friends on Discord, and hey, maybe you pop an email over to Nerd Street Games, say, hey, is there a chance maybe I could get a clean feed and just broadcast it? These are the exact type of tournaments. If you're an up and coming caster and you haven't had that chance to get real experience, that's the type of stuff you want to start at. That's the sort of jam that gets you, a way in. And honestly, working with Nerd Street Gaming, the production crew behind that as well, they're spot on. They get it. So it's like, if you reached out, I'm sure they'd be like, hell yeah, why not? Like, if there's a clean feed going, sure, they'll probably send you it over. Like, again, you'd probably have to work with them, and it's all good experience, because seeing people doing that, as I said, the high end and the low end, if you're a player and you get to play in those tournaments, you get to even appreciate how high that level can go. You're like, God damn, I thought we were pretty good. We maybe made it to Radiant. Maybe we got all the way up there, but gee, we're still, miles away from the top end. So it's always quite cool for me to see it, and it makes me happy. And as I said, it just breeds a good scene. I'd love it to be in client eventually. I'd love an option for that. But again, I think this is a perfect start.
Moses, so one quick thing I want to point out. Shout out to my boy Ryan out there. He works for UMG. But take a look at what UMG does for Call of Duty, right? They have daily tournaments. Sometimes, tournaments all throughout the day, every single hour. The Call of Duty scene is far from dying. And why is that? They're keeping the community active. You're not going to keep the community active by making them sit their ass down and watching your tier 1 and tier 2 scenes. You keep them active by involving everyone, because at the end of the day, we all want to be winners and we all have that same goal. That's why we are the audience for these esports. keep them playing. Put some money in their pockets because they're going to be the ones that will sit there and watch your bigger tournaments later on in the future if you create that type of environment.
On the absolutely, and I look at the flip side, like, and this is going to be, you know, not an excellent example because you need a lot more resources for a game like PUBG, but PUBG did not have, or it had some semblance of these week to week things, but the traction required to get these things going was so great that people started to fall off because the interest wasn't there. So when you have organizers actually putting the effort forward, especially in a game like Valorant that doesn't have as much of the resources required as a game like that, you have the ability to build this mid-tier scene, and the mid-tier scene is where esports live and die, because you have CS, and it's notoriously difficult to get to the upper echelon of CS, but you have things like MDL. You know, there's a lot of discussion. It's still high level Counter-Strike. It's not the tippy top, but it's one of those situations where you can see up and coming players grinding in a team like Chaos or Brazilian teams, whatever. It doesn't matter. But if you don't have that path to pro that has a linear, like, shooting around into the gym to go into your first competitive weekly tournament at your university, to then signing up for something like MDL and then coming up through that, and then you have this cadence of carving out these players. And if you don't have that, you're just not going to have a top tier. We're not going to have players like Simple or Drone or whoever, these guys that have done the grinding in the past. So it's good to see that these types of things are getting some traction. But on the way past all these grassroots tournaments, we have what is called the Ignition Series, which is Riot's I guess first foray into Valorant esports. They're basically tapping different organizers to put on these tournaments. For those of you who have not been paying attention, we've already had a couple in the bag. G2 did one. I think the biggest one we've had so far was the T1 Invitational, which was excellent to watch. And there's more coming. And this kind of speaks to the global approach that Riot is taking to their esports. So shout out to Waylon. And I didn't catch their name there, but they were I think it was Castro. But they're putting on these tournaments, and they're all over the world, which is excellent. We have the Pacific Open, we have one in Hong Kong, Taiwan, and believe it or not, North Africa. Now, the first thing you might think of is, oh my God, lol, who plays video games in North Africa? The answer is a shitload. There's a bunch of people in Africa, all over the world. And, I remember back in the day, man, people were like, when are we getting African servers? When are we getting African servers for whatever game was popular at the time? Because it's just a region that most companies just don't even look at. So it's really nice to see Riot being all encompassing in their global approach. Velly?
It's weird. I actually had a boss when I did IT before I quit that life to do esports, and he was from Africa, white dude from Africa. And we're talking about gaming because he knew about my past, right, as a pro gamer. And he said, it's kind of fucked how we never had good servers in Africa. He said, my first thing that I did in gaming, he's like, we went to a cafe and I had a LAN center, and that's all we had because people looked at Africa, even South Africa, and didn't think about us. Expand. Riot's doing a damn good thing with this. And I think that also, I think this is smart when it comes to mapping out your esports scene. How do you know what type of interest you have in a region unless you throw these Ignition series in those regions, right? So that way, you know what type of money to put out there, what type of resources you're going to put into that scene. And, hey, do we need to upgrade our servers in Africa and South Africa or even the Middle East? So those types of things, Riot's thinking forward, big picture, and that's starting to make me think that their groundwork for a really big international scene is going to be one of the biggest that we've seen in a shooter.
Absolutely, and I mean, Lauren, I think that a lot of this, the reaction to African gaming, esports, whatever you want to call it, is just a bias based on like idiots' perception of what Africa is. Like, it's like, oh yeah, I'm from South Africa. Like, oh, do you see lions every day?
And zebras.
Is there fucking giraffes just walking around? Do you guys actually have a computer?
Safari, so I did go and do an event in South Africa, to be fair, and they did take me on a safari, so I did get to see those things, which was cool as fuck. But no, it is.
She saw the lions.
I saw the lions. They're just walking around, dude. I was in the grocery store getting a quart of milk. Next thing you know, there's a fucking hippo just breaking down the walls. It's crazy out there. I don't know how they have internet.
To be fair, like I said, I got the it was actually such good fun to do an event in South Africa. I've known some of the players out there, and so for example, right, and I think it's the best example I can go to. I went out to South Africa. When was it? This must be like either 2017, 2016, somewhere around that. I actually can't fully remember. And I got to watch one of the teams, Bravado, at the time, and they were a brilliant team, some incredibly good players. And obviously, they'd only ever played within their region. Bravado at the time, I think, was sponsored by like Alienware or something. They sent them out to LA, and I think the first thing they did out there was playing like the ESEA leagues, try and prove themselves. And then eventually, the player that we played a show match, and he absolutely like shit on me was Sonic. And this guy now plays for Cloud9. He is like is a superstar in his own rights. He's again, these regions can produce phenomenal players. That it's just they have to get that shot to go global. They have to be able to get the chance to even play. I mean, going out there and working with the scene at the time, it was like, okay, this feels like I've gone like 5 years in the past. It's like grassroots tournaments, very like everyone knows each other sort of scene, and it was fucking awesome. I loved it. But again, like the further you expand the ability to play things like Valorant and include this community aspect and create a scene, the better for me. I don't care. Like the best player in the world could be hiding God knows anywhere. I mean, it could be anyone. So God, open those regions up if there's the ability. Because I know the main issue was always having a good server throughout Africa in general, and it was always a problem. But if that's been resolved, and maybe it has been, because I know PUBG put a hell of a lot of work, especially mobile wise, towards that region, because it's a huge region to work on.
Developing market.
And it's done well for them. Exactly. That's the thing. It is a
India.
huge market that just simply hasn't been like tapped by especially the esports industry. Gaming's out there for sure, but esports is still very much in its infancy, but it could do wonders. I really, really want to see what talent comes out from those regions.
And to kind of cap off the reactions and what can come from when you start putting resources in these areas, I think, and I'm sure you guys will get tired of the basketball reference eventually, but like the NBA has like a specific program where they go to these different regions and they're putting courts down, they're putting infrastructure down, just like Riot's doing. So they're putting these courts down. Serge Ibaka, player, goes out and finds Joel Embiid just out in Cameroon messing around and sees this guy in this spot, and next thing you know, he's a superstar. There's players and talent out there, regardless of what your sport is. If the infrastructure is there, if the courts are on the ground, from or the computers are available, whatever you want to call it, the tournaments are there. That's how you get these new regions coming up and coming into the fold. But let's just kind of zoom out a little bit and talk about the Ignition series as a whole, which is kind of reminds me of the early days of PUBG, which is basically PUBG Corp was going out and saying like, okay, here you go, you have some cash, put on a tournament, do what you want. Okay, you have some cash, put on a tournament, do what you want. That's kind of what Riot's doing right now. I think they're a little bit more careful, and obviously they are I imagine supplementing either prize pools or production costs to make these things happen. But it's nice to see that everyone's getting a shot. Now I'm a competitive integrity type of guy, so tournaments that are not competitive are not that interesting to me, but it's nice that they're trying things, because you never know. I think that if you get inbred, for lack of a better term, early on, and you say, this is how we play, these are the settings, let's not try anything new. Normally that comes out of some EU dark Discord somewhere where like the settings are just distributed and then are adopted. It's nice to see that there's variety. So Pansy, is this the right approach?
Yes, absolutely, because speaking of PUBG, do you remember the charity game with, I think it was like Ninja, Shroud, Doc, all this? That had more viewers than probably the tournament until the final. I mean, if you exclude these invites, if you exclude these Twitch-esque, Twitch Rivals-esque tournaments, then it's going to kind of fall foul of isolating some of the viewers' favorite players, because the esports scene has not matured enough yet. You don't have these like, when I, play, I want to be, I keep saying simple, but, anyone, Shock, Scream, whomever, again, they kind of fill some of the both roles there. But again, there isn't that maturity to the scene yet where you can attach huge personalities, big
role
results,
of being beautiful brown people.
Yeah, essentially. Being gorgeous. I just went for the attractive Frenchman as well, apparently.
Shocked and Scream are beautiful.
They are
out to having
very
hair.
good looking dudes. Yeah, well, that I don't think that's the only
Billionaire.
thing they've got going for them, but it's a big factor. It is a big factor. No, but again, that isn't there yet,
I'm shallow.
and
I'm
you
shallow.
could look at CS:GO, but I know, but you're beautiful anyway. But the point is that again, the esports scene isn't there, but it's got the good foundations. So why not capitalize on both markets? Why not keep people interested? But you do have to divide the two. When I'm commentating at Twitch Rivals, I'm not going to be taking it as damn well seriously as the next big tournament where it's full roster locks, because then streamers get mad because they lose the game and we critique what they're doing wrong, and then you get the pleb lords, the fans, just come and attack you. So it's a fine balance. It's a really, really fine balance.
Absolutely. Velly, thoughts on the Ignition series and the approach that Riot's been taking?
I mean, I echo every sentiment that Pansy's had. I just ultimately feel like this is, I don't know, it's really interesting to me, and maybe you have the answers, but you can't say live, but it's really interesting to see the orgs that are running these tournaments. Are these orgs going to have a big role in Valorant in the future? That's one of the main things I see when I look at the Ignition series, but just, 1,000,000%. But ultimately, I just feel like this is something that has to be done. There's no other way looking around it, because, I mean, there's a lot of sentiment out there that Valorant is getting boring to people. And what better way to get people involved in just consistent tournaments? That keeps people on the game playing to get better. That keeps people's eyes tuned in. A million things that we've said a million times in the past before. So, I mean, I love it. I just don't want to see a super long stretch of these tiny tournaments. That's one thing I don't want to see.
Yeah, I don't want to. Yeah, and I don't want to see. I want more T1 invitationals. I want more T1 Nerd Street style tournaments where it's qualified. You have some, like, I think the PAX Arena thing that just got announced. Lauren and I are involved with that, but it looks like they're doing a similar tournament where they're going to have some influencer teams, and then they're going to have a bunch of competitive teams. So that to me is following a similar model that T1 and Nerd Street kind of engaged in. So this is the release here, just covered off. So 16 pro teams and 4 influencer squads. So we know who's not making it out of groups. So yeah, I mean, it's 20 teams. Maybe they just wanted to round it up. And the reason they're doing it, Velly, is because they want to have these 4 influencer squads of your myths, your ninjas, or whatever, bringing the eyeballs in for the pro teams. It's a smart approach, in my opinion. So I wanted to kind of take a quick step back to what you said about Valorant being boring, which is it's interesting that you say that, because I look at Valorant as in the same way that I imagine like Counter-Strike and a game like chess. If you explain chess to someone and say, okay, so you have 2 sets of pieces, each piece has its own individual moves, and then you fight each other, and then whoever kills the opposing king first wins. That sounds kind of simple, but then you kind of realize just how much strategy, how much room for innovation is in these things. So if you call a game like Valorant boring, where it's not as flashy as Warzone, where you have 200 cool operators falling into a city and everything's exploding. Yeah, that looks interesting, but a game like Valorant is more like you're relying on the players to make it interesting for you. And when Valorant is so new, we haven't hit that apex or even that ascension where you start to see the innovation and the chess moves, the 3D chess, to kind of tie that together. I think as Valorant develops, it will get more interesting to watch from a pro perspective, because there'll be more storylines, there'll be more orgs, all that kind of stuff. We're still early days. I mean, we're talking about a game that's going to have legs for potentially a decade or longer. Who knows? It could be the next Counter-Strike.
Moses. Listen, dude, like, okay, I get it, because Rainbow Six does it when we bring in influencers at majors or whatever. Yeah, it brings in more eyes. But at the end of the day, how many times have we said that we're just bored of seeing influencers come in, lose, and then they're gone? Like, it's not really going to contribute too much more to the storylines or anything else like that, but bringing in their own audience to look at this tournament. If we sincerely want to grow this scene, why not have, because we talk about the lack of just unknown talent, right, rising to the top. How about we have qualifiers to play against these pro teams? What the fuck is stopping us from doing that? Why give freebies to people that are just going to be in there, play, not really care that much, and then they're out of the door? Why?
It's the culture of views equals success. That's the cult. That's the problem.
No, but like, you would bring a lot of eyes that will stick with your scene and who you are as a company if you run a qualifier, because they're going to be like, oh shit, we have a chance to go against TSM and T1. all these teams are going to sign up because they all want to win. They all want to prove that they got it. Everyone wants to see where they stand compared to these professional teams. And these qualifiers, it's going to be pretty much equal because all the good teams are already going to be in there. So do that. I feel like your longevity with viewership is going to be better in the long run rather than people that tune in and say, oh, Ninja's playing. Let me watch this while Ninja's playing. Oh, Ninja's out. Let's go back to motherfucking Fortnite. Let's drink a blue drink and build a 4x4. I don't fucking know.
Why does Ninja always get
you get
shit,
what I'm
man?
saying.
Like Ninja's out here. He's like the I don't know, whatever you want to call him, Mike Tyson of gaming. He's out there just doing his thing.
Pokemon face off against Wardell.
It's advertising, though, dude. It's so you have a 16 team bracket,
you're so
right? It's beautiful.
I love Velly,
and then you just kind of you just throw in these
Velly.
influencer guys. It's better than buying $1 million in Twitter ads.
No,
you bring in your $250,000 day rate ninja and say, come over here, bring me your 20 million followers, and
but that money can go to the prize pool. That money can go to the prize
give it to
pool.
the people.
People that are going to stay for real.
Let's make sure that 800 follower random Swedish kid has got a couple of bucks in the bank or something like that from coming in ninth.
Look. The thing is, Velly is right. If we're being pure of heart and purely competitive, Velly is right. Of course we want that. And that's what I wanted the G2 tournament to be. And then they turned it into a pickup game. And honestly, it was viewed more than any of the upcoming tournaments. So it fucking sucks, right? The problem is it fucking sucks because we still have to pander a little too much than I'd like. I would like there to not be these things. But again, Ninja is a competitor where you can still take something away from that. He's not a bad player.
Yeah,
but,
he's a gamer.
And I go to Ninja as just the prime example because he's the one who's literally all over the announcement. There's others, but Ninja is at the forefront. And he's a very good player, and he's a good poster boy for being an influencer. But again, if I see one fucking tweet from any of the players in this going, it fucking sucks to play. It's like, Twitch Rivals to me is the prime example of this bullshit.
Yes.
The amount of streamers who go, I hate playing against competitive players. Like, what do you expect? They're like, I hate playing against esports players.
Oh, that's bullshit.
They're just good at the game.
That's bullshit.
Like, if I see
that's one thing
from anyone, get the fuck out. If I see one moaning tweet, because you could have chosen not to fucking sign up. Like, you wanted some money, and then it found out you weren't very good against people who aren't shit, and now you look a bit bad and feel a bit bad. Fuck off with that attitude. So if Ninja and that lot come in, they compete, they make a good show of it, it's fun, sure. But I don't think it's too bad. I think it's a shame we don't have an open kind of like some open slots. That's what I wanted the G2 tournament to be, is like, get your invited teams, leave 4 slots open for qualifiers, see who makes it through, right? Then you get that really exciting prospect. But for now, I think it's just kind of having to bow down a little bit and accept that, yep, we're going to have these random fucking tournaments until we probably go to an offline environment where we can just treat it like a show match like, we normally do. It's that sort of vibe, right? So I think for now, it's just sadly going to be part of it. I think as the competitive scene becomes stronger and has its, own validity and strength, it'll be perfectly fine. It won't need that bump anymore. But it could still be a nice little feature. It's like gasoline to start a fire. Yeah.
Just a little ignition fluid, if you will.
Yep. There it is.
Anyway, so let's move on before I start getting deep into the dad jokes. Let's talk about Asian tier lists. There has been some changes. I mean, a lot of obviously this stuff is before we get into this, okay? This is old, okay? Lauren and I made these tier lists in beta, okay? A long time ago. So this one's mine. I don't think it's
y'all.
No, I'm not trying to protect. It's actually like if you kind of shift people up a little bit, and like I put Jet on D tier just because I felt like everyone needed to be in a certain spot. But if you like bump Omid and Sova up to A tier, maybe Breach down to B, and then
I mean, okay, I'll give you a little credit on this one.
It depends. Yeah, go ahead. I'm trying to defend myself.
Jet is only viable when you have an op with it, and the op is the most OP thing in the game right now. So is the agent actually viable? Questionable. Does she complement the most overpowered gun in the game? Absolutely. So, yeah, I mean, did we expect someone eventually to get better with her? Sure, but I think that was a pretty good run up at the time from you there.
So this is where ours looks some kind of similar. Yeah, basically the same. So I don't really think that it's changed too much, but someone who knows better than both of us is Hiko. He put together his tier list. It's he explains it as well, which is interesting. I want to hear his thoughts. We didn't get to see this whole thing, so let's see what Hiko has to say.
It's only for like top level team based like pro play. This is not solo queue. This is not like just competitive. This is literally just like team versus team, high level pro play. So yeah, I think I want to actually show you something here too. Let me pull up this tweet. It was from League of Emily. I remember League of Emily. So she actually put out a the percentage of so here's the stats this past weekend of, you guys can't really see, but so here's the actual list of pick rates the entire tournament for how many people picked. So like I said, Cypher had a 95% win rate. Not win rate. 95% pick rate of all games. So out of 154 games, 146 of them had a Cypher. And then again, Sage was in 90%, Brimstone in 73%, Sova in 71%, and then Ray's Omen. So like, if look, Cypher, Sage, Brimstone. What a surprise, chat. Cypher, Sage, Brimstone are my S tier. So, Sova, Ray's Omen. Oh, what do you know, chat? Omen, Sova, Ray's. And then Phoenix, Breach, chat. Literally Phoenix, Breach, chat. And then Reyna, Viper. Viper was only picked in 1% of games. Out of 154 maps, Viper. But I don't think Viper is a D tier agent. I don't think so. I really don't.
No.
Yeah, it's interesting to see his thoughts here on this.
I'm pissed off.
I mean,
I'm pissed off.
This is the Hiko is smart segment brought to you by Hiko. What are you mad about?
No. You know what? Yes and no.
Shit.
Let's bear in mind the top 6 picks there, not one player has a flash on them. Not one agent has a single fucking flash. Maybe Omen, if you want to maybe fucking squeeze that into it. And NA Wonders by someone like Wardell is like shitting all over them. Like, imagine playing Counter-Strike and only having smokes and then going, God, that upper, man, that I wonder how he's so fucking good, dude. We just can't get him off this fucking angle. Mad. Fucking mad, North America. Who'd have fucking thunk it that if you don't have any flashes in potentially out of the 5 picks you have, not one of them is running it. Fuck me. Like, let's make one a mainstay. Someone, please fucking do it. Like, we'll see it every now and then, but I'm tired of these operator players getting away with so much. And it may not always work perfectly. This is the thing. Someone will go, well, look, they had a Phoenix here and Wardell was still really good. Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. 2 flashes isn't enough, sure, but shut the fuck up. Like, couple it together.
I don't know, man.
Like, oh, dude, it fucks
that's a lot of utility.
Off,
that's a lot of utility coming in some of those picks too, right? I mean, you let in your smokes, you get up in the grill. Breach, I think, is getting. Bullshit, I don't know if Breach is getting enough credit for how often he's picked. I mean, I from what I remember, Breach was a big part of a lot of these maps, or at least for those who are using him. Yeah. I know that he was kind of the initiator and that kind of thing in a lot of different matches. Obviously, I have no good examples off the top of my head, but I think Breach is a critical character, in my opinion. Velly?
Moses, Breach is top 3 to me. And you know why? And I feel like, I don't know, for some reason, whenever the word utility is used in Valorant, the only thing people can think of is a fucking smoke. And that kills me. Flashes come second, and Breach isn't even in the discussion. You know, I think Hiko is disrespectful. Not disrespect to Hiko, but his list is disrespectful as shit. Now, you take every tournament we talk about, and even the tournament we're going to talk about today, there's one thing in common between all of them. Why are oppers going so big positively? Why are their stats so big? And then you look at the film. You
click the man and they die.
The film shows a person not even flashing. They have a smoke, and then they jump in like, oh, what's up? Bang, dead, right? It's just a smoke cloud. Now, flashes can help, but also, you know what else can help? Breach. His ult. His shatter. Everything that he has in his arsenal is so anti-op. Why aren't people picking him? Why not flesh out Wardell, disorient his vision, slow down his sensitivity, and then push him? Why are we putting Breach in the same category as Jet? There's no reason why Breach and Jet are going to be on the same tier. I'm sorry. That's disrespectful, and that's not forward thinking. The theory crafting in Valorant is so behind right now. I'm waiting for someone to really smart up, especially when it comes to Viper. That wall she has goes through walls. her wall
do you
goes
think it's
through
fair?
walls.
Do you think it's fair though to have like an old dog like he? I'm not saying old as like he's like what 29, 30 or something like that. But I mean like he's a guy that's been playing the same game essentially for his entire adult life. I don't think it's fair to rely on Hiko to be the innovator, you know, because he's just kind of explaining. Well, I know he's an influence, but I'm saying he's kind of playing to what the current meta is, and he's explaining why they're there. I'm not sure it's up to a player like Hiko to explain why it's not good. I think that like Jet in your mind is coming up the list, but Pansy nailed it on the head. Jet's only good because of the kid she carries. I mean, that operator and being able to dash immediately out of harm's way is just a good synergy with that character. But I don't know necessarily if it's up to Hiko to explain or give his thoughts on why things are the way they are. He's just saying, well, this is what it is, and this is why I think it is why it is.
We're in the fancy meta. We're in the fancy meta. Whatever has the fanciest play style, we're gonna pick. Let's be honest. There's so many more agents you can bring other than Omen, but people bring Omen because he's fancy to use. He's really fun to use when it comes to fragging. But let's be completely honest. I don't think he's like top tier to pick like in a lineup in a must-win situation. Go ahead, Lauren. I'm sorry.
No. You're kind of on the point for me, and I want to look at. So if you're talking about great minds, I think Hiko is a really good voice in a game. But would you say he was a great mind of Counter-Strike? No. Let's look at someone who you know, whether you like him or not, he is a great mind of it. Existence. Playing with the team started from ECS. I think it's got like Happy in it, people like that. And I've been looking at the composition they're picking up right now. And Breach has been picked 74% of the time with them. Again, it's like this sort of stuff. You'll see it like, I like what rosters they're running. I like the way they pick their comps. I mean, out of the 23 games, they've had him in 74% of their games. They run their Brimstone, their Sage, Cypher, maybe an Omen here or there, and they flex it in with a Sova. I think if you want to look at the people who theory craft things really, really well, someone like Existence is a very, very paramount example. And I think he has the right idea of how to approach a game. Whether or not he's got the time and effort and the, you know, individual ability anymore to keep up to the level that he once was, no one's ever going to doubt the theory crafting and the mental kind of gymnastics that man can pull and understand. So I think if you look towards, you know, the rosters at some of these teams that, you know, will be looking at the game in a very cerebral way, I look at them, for example, who've been doing very well in Europe. You know, a lot of Omen in play now being toyed with, Breach being in play, and then the classic kind of 3 to be the pillars of it, I think is like the smarter way to do it right now, at least in my eyes. Now, again, that could be debated. I think that I think that there is room for everything, and people will always prove or like lean on the exception and not the rule. They'll be like, oh, but you know, they had this character in here, and well, they still lost, sure, but did they have a better chance? Did you watch that film back? Did you watch the tape back and see how many times the operator was pushed out of position? How many times these people were forced off their initial angles by utility? Yeah. No, you probably didn't. But you looked at the kill feed and then you're like, but it didn't work. But you got to get better using this utility. I mean, again, there is limited amounts, and obviously part of the battle at high tier level is drawing out that utility. But again, it's all part of the mindset. So you've got to start looking at the teams with those very good IGLs and people who've got a really good mindset as to what they're running. So I think that's something I'm going to be paying a bit more attention to, is how they approach this. Again, and how they try and implement this sort of stuff.
I think it would be nice to actually have one of those guys come on and kind of explain the mindset right now in some of those. So, you know, Existence, if you're out there, Sean Garris, I think would be another good guy to talk to as well. Reach out. Let's get you on here and you can explain to us why these tier lists are good or bad. But you know, there's an interesting thread in this conversation, and I think we're kind of limited to the current existing agent pool. And you know, we have new agents coming down the line, hopefully some new maps as well. But I think this week we all had our homework, and we all took away this. If we could make an agent, what would he be like, or she be like, or they be like? And Ian made us all do this, and we're gonna just drop into what our agents, our proposed agents would be. So I think I'm up first. That's me.
What is that?
Wow.
It's Trolio.
Wow.
He's got.
Sorry,
if you're wondering, Those are zippers. It's Trolio. And then we have
Why
we
has
have
he got the
zippers on the
midriff
pants
from like 90s pop stars? That's
because his shirt
damn.
doesn't fit, dude. He's been wearing the same shirt for a
Oh,
long
okay, my
time. He
bad.
doesn't really get
Alright,
out that
I got you.
often. You know, the sun, obviously bloodshot red eyes. I wrote a bunch of abilities for this guy and I don't remember what they are.
Yeah.
So I hope that there we go. Okay, perfect.
Boom,
Okay, here we
there
go.
it is.
Okay, so his Q is a skulk. So for a brief period,
Okay.
Trolio becomes invisible but can still be heard by enemies. Wears off in 3 seconds. I put this in here, but they made me take it out. And I said that if any character other than a male character observes him, he would come out of hiding. So undermine, they made me take it out. And then undermine deploys an argumentative vortex that nullifies smoke, fire, ice, and I also said fun.
Nice.
And then obviously
I like
his
that.
and then his ultimate is fun police, and for 10 seconds, Trolio removes 1 ultimate point from each target he kills.
That's not bad.
That's
That's
The
actually
ultimate's kind of
not
cool. I
bad.
kind of like that. The ultimate's a good one. It's a real dickish move, but it's a good one.
Yes.
Damn.
Okay, and next, I don't even want to talk about Trolio. Okay, I did that in 20 minutes. I'm not sure if I can say what I was under the influence of when I did it. But let's move on to the next one,
Oh, there
which
we
is
go.
this thing.
This is my dude. Yeah, I don't remember much about this because I may have made another which we might get the pleasure of seeing, but I thought for Riot branding, you really want to make him have like weird hair colors, something that people can cosplay as. Essentially, I made him like Mirage from Apex.
Okay,
and that's about it. That his name is not Mirage, from what I recall. He can muffle sounds within about a 5-meter radius of a beacon that he can place. So maybe you go on a little sight hit, he bonks that down. You get a little bit of quiet time on contact, always good fun. Cut noise, he just gets a little decoy that can mimic sounds of footsteps. Can be thrown across the map, which could be nice. Little fakey.
right.
Decoy grenades, basically the same as CS. And yeah, he basically then has the ultimate of Mirage from Apex.
Oh, okay, so you send them straight out. Okay, well, I like the creativity. Never seen before in gaming. And then I think we have one more. Let's see what Velly came up with.
Oh boy. Oh shit. Okay.
I am Root.
He's the
Ultra
Yeezy.
boosts.
Yes. Root is pretty fly, yo. My man, he got the devil horns, but there's leaves coming out. Listen,
nice.
Root
Family
is
friendly.
legit. Now, yes, he's very friendly, but you got to peep the powers, though. You got to peep the powers. Are you able to pull it up? There we go. Okay, so the first one.
Did you put these in here yourself?
Yes, I did this. Okay, Velly for
Tree
character
wall.
design. Let's go. So the tree wall. Okay, now think about Sage's ice wall. That is the only area of denial ability in the game, right? The tree wall
Right.
is similar, but this is a difference.
It's trees.
So
It's
about-
trees.
Right.
It's trees.
Knee level. It's trees. Knee level, there's rocks, right? But there's little skinny trees to secure vision. So even though there's a wall, you can see through it, right? So, okay,
Right.
so that has its own HP you can destroy. Now, the healing tree. Think of Shadowrun.
No, hold on. Before we go to the healing tree, can we talk about the fact that trees don't grow in rocks?
They do! In the video game.
Okay.
The ghetto trees. They
All
grow
right,
in the
got it.
concrete like a flower. All right?
Oh fuck.
So the healing tree, it basically it cures people. It's a happy tree. Like it got
over it.
Probably, yeah. It is. What is it? The Shutterstock. Did you just type in healing
Shutterstock
tree
is a
into Google?
But the thing is, this tree has to have the butterflies and the happy birds, or it's not as effective, right? So this is the thing. It heals everyone. It heals half of the HP you lost. And the reason why it's so buffed is because it can heal your whole team. I think that's pretty strong, right? Let's not make some OP motherfuckers for this game because we don't need them.
Yeah, OP, which is having a AoE heal.
Make a
Okay,
forest.
relax.
put the forest down and then put the additional tree out. Okay, Groot.
No, but this is it. This is the Root.
Okay.
He builds a fucking super shield in front of him, right? So like
It's called
he gets
Root, and
wider.
it doesn't trap anyone in place.
it doesn't trap anyone. It's just a big fucking shield in front of him, right? And then it's like 500 HP. So it takes like 2 clips to shoot him down. He moves like half his speed, but he has his pistol, and that makes it even.
You made a riot shield. That's the Rainbow Six coming out. Yeah, you made a riot shield.
That's the Rainbow Six coming out.
Oh,
yes. And that
Root backs himself into a corner and ults. That's good. I like that.
Yes, that's it. That is the ultimate agent. Put him in the game. I love him. I had fun.
Oh, that's good. That's really good.
Yeah, I imagine that trees factored heavily into the creation of this character. That's all I'm going to say. But
yes.
Okay, we have a surprise.
I got a question, Jason. Did your guy have purple pimples? Wait, what is a fedora throw?
Hold on.
Here we go.
So, Moses, you had an idea.
Yeah.
And you got told off for doing silly things. This was my first design.
See, that's what I said. Ian said I wasn't being good and serious enough.
He is called Chatman. I gave him 2. I gave you a real answer. This is Chatman. He has Fedora Throw, Backseat Info, Highlight Message, and Milady. He again, it's a work in progress. It's very early days in the development. But I can talk you through what some of these could be doing.
Does he have a lightsaber?
It's actually a mod sword. So he's ready to attack anyone who would dare, maybe attack his queen, for example. So the Fedora Throw throws passive aggressive information for teammates, but has a 50% chance of being accurate. So there's a chance that it's completely fucking wrong, but he will tell you. Backseat Info reveals information 20 seconds behind it being relevant and adds a 10% debuff to teammates trying to clutch. So, it could just all go wrong with Backseat Info. Highlight Message is a big one that I thought could be a really nice addition. It increases the microphone volume by 40% to teammates with a 60% chance of then being muted. It just, the chances are there. It's a bit of an RNG character, so not for everyone. And Milady, the ultimate, of course, it's a strong one. It adds a 40% debuff to any female agent on the team / enemy team that will make them uncomfortable. So you have just this wonderfully well-balanced character that I think could really fit in with a Riot product. And I can't wait to see him in competitive play.
That's good.
This old,
I like it.
He simps for every girl character on the team and they get like an extra $5,000.
Ooh, shit. Tier 3 sub could be the next one. There it is.
Yeah.
Tier 3 sub.
I like it. Well, I mean, I think we all brought something interesting to the table. I think that if I were to pick a winner, clearly Velly wins. Based on
the tree,
based on the tree theme, very prevalent all the way through. Really hit home to me.
There
this is the new official mascot of Valoranting. Is his name Root or is it I am Root?
I am Root.
His name is Root.
Root in the Yeezys,
little brother,
holding a Tetris block, and
I love how casually he is while shooting people. It's just
he's got a hand in the pocket. Yeah, he's like, "Hey, what's up? I'm here to murder you."
Look at that face. That's the face that makes you lose like a major.
You guys want any trees? Hold on a second. I'm gonna create a riot shield that. Or trees.
He's wearing treesies.
Oh, you can't hear the producer. How dare you say these
things? For a good reason.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's. No, it's treesies. Okay, we are now forced. We are now legally obligated to move on from that topic. Shout out to everyone for participating and putting obviously all your artistic skills to the test. And on that happy note, we do have a short break. When we come back, we're going to be jumping into the Trovo live challenge that just finished up. We're going to be talking about the Vitality Open and a couple of spotlights on some of our players and teams in the Valorant scene in esports. So stick around with us. I'm going to go be posting Trolio and Root and whatever the other person's name was. On what's your name? What's the character name, Pansy?
I don't remember. Not
That's
Mirage.
Fine. We're going to post it.
I think that's as far as
it's all going on out of there. All right. Okay, we'll see you guys in a couple minutes. We'll be back with more Valoranting really shortly. Welcome back to Valoranting. Joining me once again, Pansy and Velly. We've been having a fun afternoon so far, I should say, as we've been blasting through the topics. And now it's time to talk about some of the happenings in esports in Valorant over the last week. The big tournament that we've been following over the last few weeks actually is the Trovo Challenge, put on by Trovo Live on their streaming platform. There's some winners coming from both North America as well as Europe. The first one here is Way to French, or Way to French, I should say, with Nano, Incred, Use, Mille, and Melio. I'm just going to put some French accents on there and assume that I'm saying them right. This is a tournament that, unfortunately, and shout out to my pals GLL and Trovo. I know a couple of people working for both. Not a lot of people saw it. This is on a brand new streaming platform. Only like a couple hundred concurrents or something like that through most of the tournament. So it was a little bit under the radar for many reasons. But there was some interesting competition that will have, I think, some effect on later tournaments. As for both Europe and North America, this was a fully qualified tournament. There was no invites. Everyone had to qualify all the way through, and it ran for a long ass time. So anything standing out to you here, Pansy, from what you've seen and heard from the Trovo Challenge?
I mostly caught the European end of it. I didn't see much of North America, but it's good to see the kind of picks coming out pretty standardized. I think North America is sticking to the composition that is being played by everyone. I don't think there's any wild picks coming through. Again, I do dislike seeing Breach and Phoenix as low as they are. I do like seeing Omen coming up a little bit, though. Omen's been someone that I've been championing for a while, and I think that's an excellent pick. But it's good to see these teams, and I want to see more from them. Way to French did kind of play pretty well throughout most of their tournaments. I think throughout most of the games, it was like 13-8s, and even closed out with like a 13-2 or 3 on the final map. So they look very, very strong. I want to see if they can, have some consistency. That's what I want to start seeing from some of these like smaller teams as such, that aren't in the big orgs, that are a selected 5 that they want to play with, is consistency. So that's where my eyes go, and I want to see more from these sort of teams and players.
Absolutely. Velly, any thoughts on the Trovo Challenge? Did you catch any of it?
Yeah, I definitely I recapped it, especially this morning. I really liked it, and my man Van Silly was commentating as well, so that was really cool. But it was weird watching the Asian lineups. Are we able to talk about Way Too French? Like, am I too early to talk about that yet?
No, I don't think so.
Go for it.
I don't.
Okay, yeah. No, it was a really cool game, but Way Too French, they pretty much dominated that entire game, especially early, but it was all up to Mills, right? Mills dominated with the op, and I have here, he was 15-4 by the start of the 10th round with an 8-1 score. So that just showed that the Agent lineup really didn't help the opposition when it came to them. And actually, matter of fact, Oxygen had Phoenix, Brimstone, Sova, Cypher, and Omen. No Sage. No Sage.
Didn't play Sage at all?
No Sage at all. And looking at that utility lineup, Pansy, where we're missing players that can block line of sight, that can disorient vision. And what do you get from a result of that? You get lockdown areas on the map where you have double op and triple op setups. And that's really why Way Too French were able to dominate. The only reason why the games were close most of the time is because WTF, they essentially tried, especially on Ascent, to go towards the middle, to go to other bomb sites. Stuff like that cannot happen. But when Way Too French had their way, especially with the strong op play, which Oxygen had no answer for because it wasn't in their toolkit, I mean, they were going 9-0 on most of the sides. It wasn't really competitive, and that just shows the weakness that teams have when it comes to theory crafting pushes against strong oppers. I really feel like oppers are dominating this game in ways that they shouldn't. In CS, you don't see oppers going 15-4 by halftime. That's just insane.
I'll be honest. It seems that like tournaments like this, it was fully qualified. It didn't have a ton of traction, but it does feel like one of those things that is. It reminds me of like the grassroots stuff we were talking about earlier. It is like a pretty decent prize pool, and it was produced and all that kind of stuff. But I think a lot of that comes from the fact that Tencent has a bit of a holding in Trovo. It's their streaming platform, so I imagine that they're going to be spending that marketing budget trying to get as many people interested as possible, and I think that's to the benefit of a lot of these Valorant players. Let's talk now about the next fully qualified. This is the interesting one happening this week, the Vitality Open. This is another Ignition Series event. This was fully qualified, and let's take a look at the teams that did make it. So this is an important one because this is kind of the European showcase at this stage. You can notice here, aside from only is. I'm not sure if any of these are actual orgs because I'm not super up on the. Aside from G2, is there anyone here that's actually an organization here, Pansy?
I don't believe so. I think Prodigy
Right.
is just like an agent as such. It's not actually an org. I think the rest are just collective of players. And again, the big standout aside from G2 for me is of course Party Parrots. Prodigy taking out Team Hip is another thing we can touch on if we need to, and Mitez's team losing out to Bread Hunters. But yeah, Party Parrots, if you've been keeping up with the European scene, including the CIS scene specifically, have been a huge name to be watching. And I want to see how they do going forward. I think, again, just kind of touching on the Trovo challenge as well slightly, someone like 2G4L, the Finns that I've been enjoying watching, and the same with Party Parrots, these guys are all kind of rolling with, Breach is in the roster, or they'll throw in a Reina potentially. They're using those flashes in a way more effective manner in my eyes, and the kind of toolkit that comes along with it, which is maybe why I'm enjoying watching some of that European scene a little bit more personally, at least at lower levels. I think that to me is something that's very exciting. So yeah, I think going into this one, this should be a very telling sign of what to expect from some of the upcoming teams, and the ones that aren't quite in the big orgs yet, but probably the names that will be taking wins against them, and people may not know who they are as easily because they may not know CIS teams as well as they'd maybe know, a Mixwell or, an Ardis if they're paying attention to Valorant early on.
So to talk, if we can bring the qualified teams up again, just to kind of talk a little bit about those who are involved. There's a team that I've been kind of keeping my eye on, which is Fabricant. These are guys that have a player on the team, Zipon. He was one of the first guys that I noticed as like a standout, really high level player in like one of the first Lava series that I casted, like right when Valorant came out. So a lot of these guys have threads that kind of go back to beta and some of the earlier tournaments. So I'm interested to see how they all interact. But and that's not for the teams, guys. I just wanted to make sure I wanted to say the name right. But I'm also happy for guys like David Prinz, who's arguably in a great position to become the 5th player and finally finalize rather the G2 roster. This is Mixwell, Artist, Pith, and Patadek, if you guys don't remember. And this would be David, who is just stating here that they won all their matches in the Open Series, and they're moving on to go after that €15,000 prize pool. And this is the pricing breakdown on that as well. So a good chunk of change for the first place team, considering some of the I don't know. Are we going to call it a lack of decent tournaments in Europe, or are we calling this an issue with orgs committing? Because it feels like Europe is in this permanent gestation period where in Europe, in the US rather, in North America, teams were coming out and signing players rapidly, and at least comparatively rapidly to Europe, where G2 is kind of the only team that's kind of feeling like they're getting towards being finalized as a competent, potentially powerhouse team. Do you think, Pansy, that Europe is slow here?
I think European orgs are traditionally a little bit more reserved in that regard. I think that we saw it even in PUBG, for quite a long time. These orgs weren't getting involved. They were kind of taking their time to see if the scene would develop and be worthwhile to get behind. I mean, if I'm honest and I look at some of the investments from the early North American orgs, have they all been worth the amount you paid? I don't know. So it's that debate, isn't it? I mean, I'm very surprised someone like I think it's Bonk, who's in the tournament we were just talking about. That's got it's Yassine, which is YZNB in it. You've got Bonkar, you've got Safe. These guys have been playing a great deal together, but no org, and they're a Swedish team. Plenty of Swedish orgs out there that could be looking at picking up a new roster or picking up something of that sort, well established in esports. But I feel like just generally Europe's a little bit more reserved with picking up individuals. So let's say you were looking at picking up a whole team, you have to see that team has longevity, which takes winning everything. I mean, and that's hard. It's very, very hard at this point to put that much pressure on these teams. I mean, you look at Fish 123, excuse me, the roster kind of got I not picked apart, but Artist going over to G2 is a big loss for them. I think they can replace him with just a nice high-end fragger. You're not going to probably get the same pound-for-pound player because Artist is a bit of a one-off. But, I mean, I think just it's a general note on Europe as a whole is a little bit more reserved in comparison to North America when it comes to organizations picking up streamer teams rather than waiting for actual fully fledged competitive 5 stacks.
Well, I mean, Fish 123 is a good example because this was a team that went all the way through beta, not undefeated, but very successfully. You know, they were very successful. They were winning tournaments. We had Sliggy on here talking about their accomplishments not many weeks ago, and he seemed quite confident that in the next couple of weeks they would have an announcement to make. And then that announcement ended up being that Artis was leaving the team to join what would become G2. Or to join G2 now. So the question is now, is there too much time? Is there too much time between the success and showcasing the success to the signing of the team? Because this is going to lead to a Fish 123 situation where these guys need to be paid. Like these guys are putting it all on the line to become pro gamers, and winning these tournaments is nice and all, but it's netting you a couple €100 or whatever week to week. That's not enough to live on. So if G2 comes along and says, "Hey, Artis, well, let's sign you," he's gonna be like, "Yeah, sorry, boys. Like, I'm sure that we had potential, but I'm not gonna put my livelihood on the line here because I need to make some cash." So that's kind of where I feel Europe is right now, where it's taking a long time, and it is seemingly forcing teams into these uncomfortable situations where their players are potentially being poached or talked to by organizations that do not want to pick up the entire team. I know there were some thoughts on this that we have a little bit later on. I think that kind of brings us right into Party Parrots. So Vitality Open is this weekend. It's going to be awesome. But let's talk about Party Parrots as a squad, because I think this kind of fits into the discussion. So the roster of Party Parrots. Let's take a look at that. And Pansy, I'll lean on you for this a little bit. This is a CIS team, as you can tell by the haircuts. So the so as far as the roster goes here, who's a standout, and tell us a little bit about the squad.
So I guess if you're coming into this with a little bit of a background knowledge in Counter-Strike, whether it be 1.6 or CS:GO, Angel is going to be your go-to guy. A bit of a mainstay among the scene. I mean, his tenure in Hellraisers throughout CS:GO was a pretty good run. These guys always did very well. His 1.6 history was pretty expansive. The man, had a very, very, I guess, successful history playing from 2006. He was a mainstay name with, the likes of Hellraisers, Forza, whoever it is, whichever way you want to look at it. This was his 1.6 era. As I said, back away in 2006, the guy is a mainstay name amongst the CIS teams, and has always done very, very well for himself. I mean, you'd put him, in the same category mentally as maybe not in performance level, but your Markeloffs, your names like that. The guy was always extremely, extremely good, and has the background and experience you want to have surrounded by these younger Counter-Strike players. Most of them have come through Counter-Strike, playing in various CIS leagues, or picking up onto Russian teams. But Shao is the young gun you want to be looking out for. This guy is young. He's damn good at what he does as well. They're a team that are definitely doing incredibly well for themselves across the board. I think map pool wise, we've seen them do brilliantly on the likes of Bind, Split, and Ascent so far. I've got to see them play Split, and it's your typical Russian style approach, that CIS style approach, very methodical, very well thought out. You see Angel is kind of he's not even going to the Phantom, he's gone up towards the Vandal, and he's brilliant with it. You see that kind of real crisp, snappy aim. They're a team to watch, and again, the agents they play, they do roll the breach into that, which keeps me happy. So again, for me, they're the team that could definitely cause a little bit of attention to be brought over to the CIS region specifically. So I'm looking forward to see how well they do coming up in the next coming tournaments. They're definitely a squad to keep your eyes on.
Right. So I mean, in the greater context of the European scene right now, where do you kind of put this team? Are they like a tier 1 team up on the top? Are they a team to be, okay, so this is a top level team, and 100%. I mean, in watching their play and seeing the fact that they've been qualifying for things like the Vitality Open, this is one of those situations where I hope that it doesn't result in one of them being poached and the team falling apart, like we kind of saw with Fish 123. Not falling. I'm not going to say Fish 123 is falling apart, but puts them. It's a setback when they lose a player to an organization in that way. So go ahead, Velly.
I actually have a question. I mean, can this all the org talk and all that be due to the fact that really nothing is popping off right now in the esports scene rather than these smaller tournaments? I mean, let's be honest. We always talk about the bubble, and teams getting paid an unfair amount of money when nothing's happening, especially if they don't deserve it. What's the difference in that conversation compared to now? What's the point of paying a team, tens of thousands of dollars if there's really nothing real to compete for? Their ROI is going to be pretty much meaningless, right? I mean, do I sound stupid when it comes to that?
No,
I just don't see a reason.
It's not
No,
stupid.
it's long-term investment, right?
Yeah. I think that the way to look at it is that it's never the player's fault if they get signed to a big deal for worth lots of money. That's on the org. You know, no one's gonna turn down a $30,000 offer or something like that. You know what I mean? But as far as the logistics and the finances, no, I think you're absolutely right. Like, there's no live events, which is not something anyone can change, and there's also the fact that right now it's a bit of a gold rush, and if European players are hearing anything from the North American scene, they know what kind of cash is getting thrown around. And in the same way that CS back in the day, there was a huge amount of cash being thrown around. I think a lot of these European orgs are like, I don't want to sign up for that again. I don't want to do this again. I've like if I'm NIP or whoever, and I'm paying my CS team all this cash, or maybe not paying them all this cash, depending on who you talk to. It's one of those situations where they've maybe been bitten a little bit by the CS scene, and they don't want to dive headlong into these long-term huge deals. Maybe.
Yeah, I think honestly at this point I'm waiting to see how long it takes. So let's look at Party Parrots because it's an easy one to look at. You have someone who's got long-term history in Hellraisers. For example, Angel's been there for a long time. He's probably got a very good rapport with the org. I'd be very surprised to see them join anyone other than like a Na'Vi or a Hellraisers. It'd suit them well. Again, for Existence, people like that, happy that have had history with these French organizations or teams that worked with them, they should pick them up. I just think that it's a two-way street. Are the players asking for too much? Maybe. Have they come in with the same mentality as some of those North Americans, and they've been like, hey, we want this big chunk of cash, but also they have brand power. Again, when you look at Angel, you look at Existence, you look at Happy, you look at whoever you want, Scream. There's a reason they have that star power, and they do deserve to be paid for it. But again, it's like, does the scene suit it yet? I don't know, but it should be an investment for the long term. I'd like it to be fair on both sides, but it rarely is. But yeah, I don't know what how long do we leave this scene? Because eventually these players just go, fuck it, what's the point, right? Like they won't be able to do this of their own accord. So I want to see more support from organizations. And
there's an interesting thread
it
there,
needs
Lauren.
to happen soon.
Do you think that there's a possibility, and there's because these orgs talk to each other, and this is not based in reality at all, I'm just thinking about thoughts. Do you think that there's maybe maybe like an org sided kind of price fix? Like, we don't want to pay these guys crazy. Like, it's like they say, if you guys start dropping a bunch of cash, it's going to be bad for everybody. So let's all just take a deep breath and play hardball and let these players come down in price.
Oh,
I don't know. I really don't know. I'd really hate to see that being the case, but I mean, God, it's weird, isn't it? Like, I'd always support the players in this. I mean, orgs actually have a pretty fucking easy time, I'm gonna be honest. Like, again, traditionally when we go back to when it's like a normal scene, like when you can travel and these events are going on, TOs basically pay for the vast majority of things. So they'll pay for the flights, the hotels, everything that kind of comes under that umbrella, which is actually very rare. Normally in, I think, traditional sports, it's the other way around. Like, your owning company will pay for your flights, your accommodation, and and the TOs don't. It's not about that. So
the
orgs that pick up a successful team, marketing value is huge for some of them. I hope they're not holding out as a collective, because that would really fucking suck to underpay these guys potentially in a very big upcoming game. But again, I also understand from the org's perspective that this could be a money sink. You don't know. This could turn into a game that dies after a year, which I doubt it. But it's also not pulling in mad viewers. No one's the fan club for Party Parrots isn't the same as picking up like a Na'Vi, right, in Counter-Strike, or picking up Brax or whomever. So for now, I don't think there is value to the same degree, but it sucks because it could potentially cut off the competitive scene very early on.
Right. It's the chicken and the egg. Like, do you pay your players or do you wait for them to become stars? It's not something that you can. It's a partnership, right? I mean, the orgs
Yeah.
And this is a greater conversation than the topic we're on, obviously. But I mean, there's the economics of orgs versus players. Most of the time, orgs are coming out on top. Most of the time.
Yeah.
Like, you know, because all these contracts are kind of structured where, yeah, I could sign you for 3 years and you're going to be getting 20,000 a month. And it sounds like I just signed you to a million plus dollar deal or whatever. But I can cut that off at any time for any reason. It's often written into the contract. Like, we can bench you and turf your contract whenever we want. So if that's the mindset for the orgs, where maybe they are a little bit, they're under the weight of the North American orgs who are paying these players insane amounts of cash, at least reportedly, that they just want to bide their time. But it, like you said, Lauren, it's an interesting situation because it can potentially be dangerous for the European scene, which I think most people would agree feels like they're not lagging behind in terms of skill, but in terms of infrastructure, hype, awareness, big brands, they're just not there right now. And I hope that the Vitality Open is the pivot point for that, as we see a fully qualified tournament, a lot of great teams. Let's jump into the last topic of the day, which is drone. And actually, we figured out a little bit more about this topic because Lauren has eyeballs that function. So let's pull up the tweet from Drone and see what he has to say. He's a little bit upset. He went to Twitter. He basically posted this up and said, you know, I'm 27-18, 33-15, 21. He's owning out there basically. And he's got all these victories. And I misinterpreted it. My interpretation was that he wasn't happy with the quality of competition. So I had my sarcastic response. But what Lauren pointed out, actually, I'll let you say it. What are we missing from this image here?
That he hasn't got that final rank up to Radiant.
Right. He's still immortal.
Yet.
He's not Radiant.
So yeah, he's not Radiant. The thing for me is there's two things I want to take away from this. One, if I'm looking at Elo and how it works, it judges you on your own performance. If I'm going off previous games, again, no one knows exactly how they do it. And the thing is, like, looking at his rank, where I think he ranked up like 5 games after the last one he played, so he'd just come up from that. So he's played like 5 games in his current rank, and he was kind of performing the same. It's very hard to top your performance when you're that good. You know what I mean? Like, your average is fucking strong. So for you to keep you're gonna have to do the slower grind rather than, you know what I mean? Like, it's not gonna be easy to do it. That's the whole point. But also show people fucking MMR. Like, once they get to the top, show them something, give them something to grind on.
Yeah,
because
a leaderboard.
I actually, you know, I watch something. There's like people of, I don't like leaderboards so much because I mean, I guess it does just highlight how many cheaters there are out there, which is always good fun. Thank you for that one, PUBG. But I'd like to just, because I like the individual aspect of like knowing, okay, well, my number is 5,371 and my buddy's is, you know, 6,000. Like, being like, you know, that 6K player is nuts. You know what I mean? Like, that's the next big bar you want to jump up to, and you can see the loss and gain between it. And I wouldn't mind that if that only unlocked once you got to Radiant or Immortal, let's say. Once you got up to that high end, the very like higher echelons of the gaming, you could see your actual elo score, and then it goes away once you're lower than that because there's enough of a challenge to get up that high. But yeah, maybe, you know, Drone just needs to get good. That's all it is.
Get it together. He's not even Radiant. Dude. Like, what a pleb.
He's just fucking flexing on everybody.
Well, I mean, 33 and 15 is like, you know, and to be fair, like, you know, it's pixels. There's no doubt in anyone's minds that Drone is one of the best players out there. But it does feel bad, you know, if you are Drone and you're like, well, give me the goddamn rank then. You know, I want to be like my boy Tens and whoever else is getting up to be Radiant. Which I'm sure he will attain. But I mean, my big thing is if you want to draw attention to these players and have some you know, make the ranks matter. And I think one of the biggest issues that is facing high elo Valorant right now is that there's no leaderboard, there's no real competition among the big players, but there's also a lack of competition among the bigger, more skilled players, because there's just not that many people competing on that level, which leads to long queue times, sometimes bad matches. There's going to be cheaters, that kind of stuff. So if you're streaming, let's say if you're Drone out there trying to make your stream like or stream like Hiko, and you're having long ass queue times, and there's no competition among streamers. Like, imagine if there's a leaderboard and Drone is 5th and Hiko's 2nd, and they're constantly, you know, playing against each other, that kind of stuff. That's an interesting storyline for people to attach themselves to. So there's a bit of room there for Riot to maybe increase the interest or the touch points where people can kind of hook on to something and
Yeah.
say, this is why I want to watch
mean-
Valorant every day.
Let people play deathmatch while they're queuing. That's it.
Right.
Like, you're not going to fix queue times unless you open up the
Hey.
ranks, right? So, like, let's say you open up the ranks to have, I don't know, 20% more access to Radiant. That means you get shitter quality games. You don't want that. It's just, it's hard to get there. Of course, you know, once you're on that high end, it's always going to take a while to get that sort of game going. It is what it is, right? Just fucking deal with it. That's the name of the game. But yeah, let them play deathmatch while they wait, right? Like, you have the option to queue in with your collective 5 or solo queue it. You know what I mean? Like, join on your own or join in as 5 and just, you know, do something while they wait.
I think solo queue needs to come personally, but I mean, let's not open that can of worms. We'll save that
What
for
about a
another week.
third party?
Yeah.
I was gonna say, what about a third party like CS has? Like, make that shit more competitive that way too.
Right.
I refuse to respond because we'll be here for another 45 minutes. So you bring up a good point, though, dude. We've talked about it in the past, and it's something we're going to be continuing to bring up in the future. And I'm just reading the chat. Mixwell's getting 2-hour queue times. It's unplayable. 2-hour queue times, unplayable. You are literally unable to play. So it's not something that is. It's something that is. It's not an emergency because there's very few people at Mixwell's level. But it is something that if you want to have interest in your esports scene, you have to have interest in the people who are playing. And if they're streaming, there needs to be a good product to be viewed. That's my opinion. Anyway, so I wanted to open up to you guys. Velly, any final thoughts on the day? Anything we talked about that you want to add a little bit more to, or anything coming up that you want to talk about?
Yeah, Valorant teased some shit with like a dragon on it, and no one knows what the hell it is. It's a skin?
Skins. It's got to be.
I don't want a skin. I want a map.
What do you think? There's going to be a dragon map?
Maybe it's like a fiery hell dragon map, like some Skyrim shit.
Where is
for real? Like, is it confirmed? Here, I'm in the chat.
Do you follow Player IGN? Yeah, Player IGN's an old PUBG leaker. He's doing Valorant now as well. Yeah. So he basically went out and found the names of the skins. It's all dragon related. And if nerds like one things, it's motherfucking dragons. Okay, so
that's a skin. That's a skin. That's a skin. I can see it all day long. That's a skin.
We have so many skins.
It's gonna be a knife.
What's the priority of this game? What's the priority
to make money?
A dragon knife, dude. It's it's mall ninja shit, dude. Do you remember when you go to the mall and you're like looking at all the cool knives? Oh, that one's got a dragon on it, dude. Look at the dragon knife. And then that's certainly.
Look
there's
at
no
that.
reason why.
Straight up weeb shit. Here we go.
Yeah, there's no reason why there's 12, 15 variations of skins, but there's only like one map. Like, please. No more skins. We just want maps.
Zoom out, Daniel. How many likes does it have? Probably has like 70,000 likes or something like that, right? It's gonna have 23,000 likes and comments.
Look at him. Look at that thirsty fucker, dude. Golden Boy buys every fucking skin.
This guy,
the skin lord himself.
Yeah, he'll like. I refuse to buy skins in the game yet. I'm holding out. I'm holding out. I'm waiting for when that big dragon comes out. Maybe. I don't know.
Cigarettes and first class flights to Monaco for Pansy. It's those long
that's it.
Long Cruella de Vil cigarettes just in her private jet. I would never buy a skin in a video game. Peasants.
No. Okay, the problem is that I spent about 10 grand in Counter-Strike on skins. So that's why I don't start.
You're in recovery.
I don't start.
You're in recovery.
Exactly. It's like once you open Pandora's box, my bank goes wee. So I've got to really not do that. And at least in Counter-Strike, I can
just see
resell.
Allie with a cricket bat every time you go for the credit card, which is frozen in a brick of ice in your fridge or something like that. Get away from the credit card. You're not allowed to buy any more skins.
I can't. But at least in Counter-Strike, I can sell them. Like, what the fuck do I get in Valorant? Oh, my fucking knife looks shiny, sweet. It don't make a fucking difference to me. I also do these skins actually sound different? By the way, I haven't lost my mind. When I listen to some people shooting, it sounds different.
Yes.
Yeah, they have all like one of them sounds like a freaking laser gun. Yeah, they changed like they have different animations.
The problem is though, for like imagine my auntie sitting there going, "Oh, is that a different gun then?" No, it's actually just
the same gun.
A paint job they paid for. Fuck! It's like just stop making it harder for people to understand.
For you to explain to your aunts is that's the issue. We have to concern ourselves with how we explain the gun skin concept to our parents.
Okay. It's
accessibility.
It's Riot Games. It's Riot Games. They want this to be big and accessible to all the plebs out there
profitable.
watching. So, yeah, but okay, you don't need to make a fucking sound pack for the guns. Like,
why not?
Ask
value. You're paying $70 for the skins anyway. You might as well get some freaking animations and some sounds and a gun buddy. And
you don't want to make it confusing to people that don't get
We're yelling about a preview. We haven't even seen the whole skin yet. What if it's a freaking katana dragon? Then it's going to be Apex cool. They already have a freaking hatchet, and they have a freaking they have like an angelic sword looking thing.
Isn't it?
It's gonna be absolutely. It's a dragon. Of course, it's gonna be a katana. It's like they know their audience.
True.
I hate it. I hate it so much.
I look forward to buying the entire set as soon as I can access the game. So it's let's not jump into that. I think honestly we're out of time. I was surprised we managed to talk about as much as we did. So Pansy and Velly, it's been an absolute pleasure. As per protocol, you guys are bringing the heat every single week. I can't wait to see what happens after all these turns are over with, and we can talk about that next week. Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to check out the Do Not Peak Twitter, Twitch, YouTube channel, twitter.com/DNPeak. Follow this channel as well, and check us out on YouTube at Do Not Peak Entertainment. We have all the VODs and everything going on. We also have all of our agents have been posted on the Do Not Peak Twitter as well. So if you want to see what we came up with our agents, Velly is clearly won the contest, which is totally fine.
So bad.
It was amazing. So it was an excellent week. Thank you guys for being here. We'll see you guys next week. Same bad time, same bad channel, 11 a.m. Pacific time. On what time, Pansy? Tuesdays. It's Tuesdays is when we do the show.
When is it?
2 p.m. Eastern.
2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific,
11
Tuesday,
West Coast.
next week. Don't confuse people. Okay, we have to get out of here. The show's over. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next week.